Well, after 8 months of tense talks and just 7 days before the deadline, the European Union and the UK have clinched a trade deal. The agreement for a zero-tariff and zero-quota relationship covers everything from energy to what became the crucial issue of fish. The EU won protection for a level playing field on regulation, while the UK avoided a future role for the European Court of Justice. Britain's Prime Minister Boris Johnson claimed he'd delivered the promises of the 2016 vote to leave, with his country no longer bound by EU rules. But the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said EU rules will be respected by a balanced deal which protects member state interests. Is that the end of the story? Not quite. Ambassadors from the 27 EU members will be meeting on Friday, Christmas Day, to discuss it, while British MPs will be recalled for a vote next Wednesday. Both must agree by midnight on the 31st for the deal to become official.
At the end of a successful negotiations journey, I normally feel joy. But today, I only feel quite satisfaction and, frankly speaking, relief. I know this is a difficult day for some. And to our friends in the United Kingdom, I want to say, parting is such sweet sorrow. But to use a line from T.S. Eliot, what we call the beginning is often the end. And to make an end is to make a beginning. So to all Europeans, I say, it is time to leave Brexit behind. Our future is made in Europe.
I think this deal means a new stability and a new certainty in what has sometimes been a fractious and difficult relationship. We will be your friend, your ally, your supporter, and indeed, never let it be forgotten, your number one market. Because although we have left the EU, this country will remain culturally, emotionally, historically, strategically, geologically attached to Europe.
Let's get more on this now from Rory Challens, joins me in the studio now. So, Rory, it's been a long time coming, but here we finally are. Number 10 saying that the country succeeded in taking back control. We heard the European Commission President saying that EU rules will be respected. Both sides claiming victory, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, that's the spin, isn't it? And that was inevitable. It's a huge achievement. You can't deny that. Many people feared that it couldn't be done before the end of the year. This is the kind of trade deal that usually takes perhaps a decade, and they've done it in less than a year. So, you know, you can applaud that. But, you know, cliches, obviously, devil in the detail. It really is with this. So over the next few weeks, I think this will be poured over. Of course, the MPs have to do that before they vote on it, before the end of the year, I think on Wednesday. They'll be looking at all of the ramifications of it, and I think they'll realise how thin this deal actually is. Because of the short time frame that they had to negotiate this, there is so much that it doesn't actually cover. The UK mainly has a service-based economy, and this is a trade deal that, by and large, covers products and not services. So there's large parts of the UK economy that is left out of this at the moment. They'll have to be covered that at some point. Yeah, we heard the spin from von der Leyen saying, this is a sad moment, from Boris Johnson, optimism, but it's only over the next few days and weeks that we're really going to know what this deal actually means.
And I suppose regardless of whether or not there was going to be a trade deal, because there was so much focus on hard Brexit, soft Brexit and all the variations that you could have in terms of future relationship between the UK and the EU, there will be changes for British businesses. There will be extra paperwork and there will be an adjustment period.
Yeah, I mean, most trade deals are there to reduce the barriers between two countries or two entities and how they trade with each other. This is doing the opposite. This is putting barriers up. Yes, they were trying to keep those barriers as minimal as possible, but you cannot say that the UK is going into 2021 with the same relationship that it had with the European Union before, and there may not be tariffs and there may not be quotas, but there are going to be barriers to trade, and that's a strange position. That's a strange thing for a trade agreement to do. What businesses, I think, now will be very, very thankful for is that they can start getting some certainty, because the government of the UK has been saying for a long time, you better prepare, get ready, and they've been saying, but for what? We just don't know. And at long last, they now have some kind of certainty and they can start planning properly.
Some clarity for them, very important. Thank you very much, Rory. Well, Al Jazeera's Bernard Smith has been following the story from the French capital, Paris, and he says the EU has made it clear that the UK will no longer enjoy the advantages it did as a member.
Yes, no triumphalism from Europe. Remember that the 27 other member states of the EU never wanted Brexit to happen. Nevertheless, Irish Premier Michael Martin, he has said that while we'll miss the UK, we can focus on how we'll manage our future relationship. Angela Merkel says she's confident the deal is a good one. And Emmanuel Macron, the President of France, he says the unity and strength of the EU has paid off. Nevertheless, the EU Commission points out in its statement that it said that the agreement will by no means match the significant advantages that the UK enjoyed as a member state of the EU. And it says that the free movement of persons, goods, services and capital between the UK and the EU will end. A reminder that this relationship is going to be very different. Now, what happens in the next couple of days after the quick Christmas break is that this agreement will go to the European capitals for approval by member states. There is not enough time for the European Parliament to ratify this deal. So what the Commission is suggesting is that there's going to be provisional implementation until the 28th of February, and by that time it's hoped that the EU Parliament can officially debate and approve this deal with the UK. One of the most important principles that the EU wanted to maintain was a level playing field after the UK leaves the EU's orbit, and so that the UK can maintain tariff-free access for its goods. The EU says there is a mechanism in this agreement to make sure that the level playing field is maintained and that Britain doesn't have some competitive advantage over the EU in future.
So the deal's been done, but what's in it, and has either side fared better? Well, principally it secures a zero tariff and zero quota market for goods, sidestepping the possibility that prices on both sides could have soared, forcing businesses to fold or suffer. On the key British issue of access to fish in UK waters, EU boats will keep access for 5.5 years, but the size of their catch will shrink. The UK fishing industry says it's disappointed there isn't more of a break from the EU. For Europe, a key demand was protecting the level playing field, common rules to stop one side gaining a competitive advantage. It says there will be built-in safeguards with incentives to stick to it. Beyond all this, there are deals covering transport, data, sharing and health, plus agreements on law enforcement, for example, smoothing the process of extradition. But it won't be as swift as before. And crucially, the UK has opted out of the Erasmus student programme. So Britons also will no longer avoid mobile phone roaming charges, and there'll be more paperwork if they want to travel with their pets. Nadine Barber reports now from London.
It's taken endless rounds of stop-start talks between the UK and the European Union. Now, at the 11th hour, a trade deal's emerged. One area of dispute that's seen compromise is fishing rights. Outside the EU, Britain has control of its exclusive economic zone, but it's had to budge on how much access EU trawlers have. There's also been movement on state aid to allay EU fears that European companies could suffer from unfair competition. After all the uncertainty, recriminations and U-turns, the UK finally has a trade deal with its biggest commercial partner. In reality, it's very far from the deep and special relationship promised by the previous Prime Minister. But it's a start, and it means the worst damage under a no-deal scenario can be avoided. The government's independent spending watchdog says that would have knocked 2% off UK growth in 2021 alone, partly because of temporary disruptions to cross-border trade. And for one keen Brexit watcher, the deal sends a political message too.
Diplomatically, the fact that both sides have shaken hand on a deal puts them on the same side. And they now both have an imperative to work together to make this deal look as good and run as smoothly as possible. And that will minimise short-term disruption. But it will also mean that the UK and the EU aren't at loggerheads, as I think they would have been in the event of a no-deal outcome.
But even with this deal, UK businesses still have plenty to worry about. Only a small number of transport companies have had access to Britain's new border crossing software, expected to be rolled out just a week before the transition period ends. There are concerns about Britain's current jobs crisis deepening if firms relocate to the EU. And there are still unanswered questions about how to avoid physical border checks between Northern Ireland, part of the UK, and Ireland, an EU member. The deal still has to be ratified by the European Parliament. For now, both sides will be happy to have something to show for the tortuous negotiations, but they know their future relationship is still being sculpted. Nadeem Barber, Al Jazeera, London.
Well, obviously, the country has been divided on this issue. There have been mixed views expressed on all sides. Here's a flavour of what people in the capital, London, have been saying.
It's a compromise. It had to happen. It would have been totally ridiculous if it hadn't. So I hope they've done something sensible.
I'm really pleased we're getting a deal. And I think it's light at the end of the tunnel. I think we've had a terrible year, and I think it's really good news, quite honestly. I was afraid of a no deal.
Well, it's better than a no deal, but still all of the disadvantages of leaving the European Union. So it's making the best of a bad job.
Well, Jonathan Liss, the Deputy Director of the pro-European think tank British Influence, shared his perspective with us, and he says that the EU won more concessions from the UK than the other way around.
As far as I can see, the only major EU compromise was in fishing, that they agreed on 5.5 years transition period, which seems to have been closer to the UK's demand than the EU's one. But if you listen to Boris Johnson, what he was actually saying, it's very abundantly clear that the UK is the party which has made the most movement in pretty much anything. And we can see in Johnson's bluster and his very detail-light statement there that he really had nothing to boast about other than the usual kind of cliches about taking back control of trade, laws, money, etc., which simply we already had control of course. And so on the key issues, such as level playing field, the EU has made it clear that it got what it fundamentally wanted, which is alignment. And if the UK diverges, the EU has a right to respond with tariffs. That was the EU's fundamental ask. And we've also heard in that press conference from Johnson that he is not denying that we've been locked out of security databases, which is a vital element of UK policing. And he simply responded to the journalist by saying everything will be fine with security. That is not the kind of assurance which British people need. The British people did not vote for self-immolation, and they did not vote for economic collapse, and we have come perilously close to both of those today.